She was the toughest girl on television, the one every kid in America knew by one name. Joe for 8 seasons, Nancy McKeon owned the screen on The Facts of Life, playing a character so beloved that millions of fans felt like she was their own big sister. But behind the leather jacket, behind that confident smile, something was quietly building. In 2019, within the span of just 2 months, Nancy McKeon lost her father. And then she lost her brother, too. 2 devastating losses, back to back, while the world still saw her as the fearless girl from a 1980s sitcom. She didn't do a tearful interview. She didn't go on a talk show to explain herself. She simply disappeared from the spotlight, grieving in private, while cameras kept flashing at everyone else. But that wasn't the first time Nancy McKeon walked away from something the world expected her to chase. Years earlier, she had already turned down the kind of fame most actors would kill for. A role that could have made her a household name slipped through her fingers and went to someone who became one of the biggest stars on the planet. So what really happened to Nancy McKeon? Why did a woman who once had Hollywood at her feet keep stepping back again and again at the exact moments she could have leaned in? And where is she now, at 61 years old, after decades of choosing privacy over fame? The answer says more about her than any headline ever could. Nancy McKeon didn't grow up dreaming about fame. Fame grew up around her. Born in 1966 in Westbury, New York, she was already working by age 2, modeling baby clothes for a catalog. Her brother Philip was right there beside her. Together, the two of them did around 70 commercials before either one had even started school. By the time other kids were learning to ride bikes, Nancy was already a working actress. Soap operas first, then the role that would change everything. The Facts of Life. She played Jo Polniacek, a tough, streetwise girl who didn't belong with the wealthy kids at her boarding school, and audiences fell for her instantly. She wasn't soft. She wasn't polished. She felt real, and that made her a star. For 8 years, she was one of the most recognizable faces in America. She won awards. She stood beside legends. She was even granted a private audience with the Pope, an experience she later called electric. But here's the thing about child stars. The world falls in love with the character, not always the person underneath. And when the show ended, Nancy faced the question every young star eventually faces. Who am I once the cameras stop rolling? She didn't fade away. She kept working, quietly, taking on heavier roles, playing real survivors, building a career instead of living off nostalgia. But something else was happening beneath the surface. While everyone around her chased bigger spotlights, Nancy kept doing the opposite. Every single time opportunity knocked the loudest, she was the one who hesitated. And that pattern was about to define the rest of her life, in ways nobody saw coming. In 1990, NBC came to her with an offer most actors would beg for. The lead role in a sitcom version of Working Girl. It was exactly the kind of project that could relaunch a former child star into full adult stardom. Lee turned it down. The role went instead to a then unknown actress, named Sandra Bullock. You already know what happened next. It's easy now to call it a missed opportunity. But for Nancy, it wasn't about missing out. It was something deeper, a pattern of choosing what felt right over what looked impressive. Then, 4 years later, lightning struck twice. In 1994, she auditioned for a new pilot, alongside actress Courtney Cox. The character was a chef named Monica. The show was called Friends. The role went to Courtney Cox. Twice, Nancy McKeon stood at the very edge of career-defining fame. And twice, the spotlight passed her by and landed on someone else. For most actors, that kind of loss would be devastating. Something to replay for years. But what happened next changed everything about how people understood her. Instead of chasing the fame that slipped away, she kept working on her own terms. A show in '95, a show in '98. Neither one exploded into a phenomenon. To outsiders, it looked like a career quietly fading. But she wasn't chasing headlines. She was building a life. And soon, that life would take a turn nobody in Hollywood could have predicted. In 2001, she found the role that would define her as an adult actress. Inspector Ginny Eckstead on the Lifetime drama The Division. 4 seasons of respect she'd never quite gotten as a sitcom star. But real life doesn't pause for television schedules. During the final season, Nancy became pregnant. And instead of hiding it, the show wrote her pregnancy directly into the story. It was a small moment, but it revealed everything about who she'd become. She wasn't protecting an image anymore. She was just living in plain sight. By then, she'd already built a private world far from the tabloids. Years earlier, she'd been quietly involved with actor Michael J. Fox for 3 years. "We were very private people," she said. "We kind of kept to ourselves." That instinct never left her. In 2003, she married film technician Mark Andrus. They'd actually met 8 years before, on a movie set. And it took nearly a decade for it to become something more. No red carpet romance, no tabloid storm, just 2 people, quietly finding each other over time. Through the 2000s, she kept working, narrating audiobooks, a recurring role here, a guest spot there. She wasn't chasing relevance, but beneath that quiet, steady life, a storm was building, and this one had nothing to do with Hollywood at all. By 2019, everything seemed warm again. Nancy was reuniting with her old Facts of Life co-star Kim Fields for a Christmas movie, bringing familiar faces back together for fans who'd loved that show for decades. Then, everything fell apart. In late October, her father passed away, the man who used to drive her to auditions as a toddler. Nancy posted a quiet tribute, an old photo of him playing catch with her brother. She hadn't even finished grieving him when the second blow came. Barely 2 months later, in December, her older brother, Philip, died. He was only 55, after a long illness that was never publicly explained. Philip wasn't just her brother. He was the one person on Earth who understood exactly what her life had been like, from the very beginning. They'd grown up in front of cameras together. He'd directed her in a film. He'd been there through decades in an industry that chews people up. Losing him wasn't just losing family. It was losing the last person who truly knew her. And the timing was almost cruel. She was supposed to have a bigger role in that Christmas reunion. But because of what was described only as a difficult, unexpected family emergency, she had to scale everything back and film remotely. Kim Fields later revealed something that said everything about Nancy's character. Even while her world was collapsing behind the scenes, she refused to walk away completely. She stayed committed, even in the middle of the worst moment of her life. 2 devastating losses, back to back, while she was still expected to show up. That kind of quiet heartbreak never makes headlines the way a scandal would, but it's often far heavier to carry. Grief doesn't follow a script, and it doesn't end when the cameras stop rolling. In the years since, Nancy has carried her brother with her in small, deeply personal ways. Every November, on his birthday, she posts a private tribute online. A hashtag she made just for him. "Miss you, dude." It's not a grand gesture. It's a quiet ritual. A reminder that even public figures grieve in ways the world never sees. In late 2024, when Philip's old co-star Linda Lavin passed away unexpectedly, Nancy posted photos of her brother beside her, asking them to look after each other, wherever they were now. Old grief, folding into new grief. Years later, and he is still right there with her. But here's the truth behind Nancy McKeon's story. It was never really about loss. It was about what she chose to do with her career. The entire time. quietly, deliberately, choosing meaning over maximum fame. Because here's what most people don't realize. Nancy McKeon never stopped working. She just stopped chasing the spotlight for its own sake. In 2021, she appeared in a new streaming series she'd been excited about for years. And more recently, at 61 years old, she did something almost no former child star ever attempts. She stepped onto an off-Broadway stage. A small two-woman play about lifelong friendship, told through decades of letters. No studio audience, no massive paycheck, just craft, stripped down to nothing but the work itself. And that single choice says more about who she really is than any headline ever could. So where is Nancy McKeon today? She's not chasing comebacks. She's not chasing relevance. She's still married, over 20 years now. She's a mother. She steps back into acting only when something actually calls to her. She carries her brother with her every November. She keeps her private life exactly that, private. And at 61, she finally seems to have answered the question she faced all those years ago, back when the facts of life ended. Who am I once the spotlight moves on? The answer was never about fame at all. It was about choosing a life she could actually live in. So, what do you think? Did Nancy McKeon make the right choice, walking away from bigger fame again and again to protect her family and her peace? Or do you think she gave something up that she'll never get back? Tell us in the comments. And if you want more real stories about what happens to your favorite stars once the cameras stop rolling, subscribe. There's a lot more coming.